Hey guys, what's going on? It's Jamie, Dean, and Kylie coming at you live from all over the world today. We had a good catch up actually. We've been doing this live for I don't know a couple months. We've been going back and forth, and we finally figured out where the echo was coming from. Kylie, where was that echo coming from?
I don't know because I can't hear it.
So either way, we got it all figured out right now. Things are sounding so good. I've had a pretty good week since I talked to you guys last, and I love this idea for would you delete a bad memory if you could? I mean, like right off the cuff, I'd be like, yes. But then when you stop and like delve into it a little more, it's like, but what if I didn't have that memory? And what if that didn't happen? Like, how would that have changed my life and like the direction I'm headed? So I'm really excited to talk about this today. But how are you guys?
Yeah,
Kylie
good.
first, always Kylie first.
Yeah, good. So in the UK, we came a little bit out of lockdown today. So shops have opened, gyms have opened, not fully, but you can go to the pool or you can do outside classes and you can go meet people in the pub or a restaurant or cafes and just sitting outside for a drink. So yay! We've got some freedom. It feels good.
That's massive. Yeah, that's massive.
Dino, what about you, buddy?
The week. What's happened? Yeah, a few bits and bobs. Doing a lot of studying. Yeah, was on a radio interview which comes out next week, so that was quite fun. That was good.
How did it go?
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, it was good. And I think that these lives have helped massively. I was a bit nervous at first, but after a couple of minutes, I settled down and it was fine. And yeah, like as you guys know, I was petrified 4 months ago, if that. So yeah, it was really good. I really enjoyed it. And the host kind of got really involved and passionate. So she really helped me along. So yeah, that was good. That was probably the highlight. And yeah, it's been a good week. Good week.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Sweet. So moving forward, I can't wait. So for me personally, you guys know this, I'm moving into a van. I'm so stoked on van life. Pretty soon the background is going to be like different mountain scenes in front of lakes, in front of trees, like maybe inside if it's raining. Like I'm pretty excited. So if we think that we have audio issues now, just wait till I get in the van and start getting that set up. But super stoked for that. I'm really excited. So that's kind of like what's on my plate. But so the delete the bad memory thing, when I thought about this, I kind of went back to kind of a different question. Whereas like I was in an industry I didn't want to be in for 22 years of my life. And I was thinking that if I had a chance to erase that whole entire part, or if I had a chance to go back to when I was 18 and start doing something different, like would I have done it? And so that question is kind of like how I phrased that a little bit. And I really am happy about where I am at in life right now. And I'm pretty scared that if I would have done something different back then, that I wouldn't have ended up where I am today. But then the counter argument is like, maybe if I would have done something different back then, I'd be like where I might be when I'm 50 earlier. But as of now, the way my life has been, I wouldn't change a thing. And so that means keeping all those memories and everything that happened to me intact too. So for me, I feel like if I had the chance to delete a memory, I wouldn't do it. But going back and dealing with certain memories, I think is a skill that needs to be developed, especially for me, because too many times I've had a memory and then pushed it down, pushed it deep. And then it just kind of is this like ball of cancer building up inside for a very long time until we can deal with it. That's my thoughts on that. Quick one.
I understand that. I think, and I think it probably depends on where you are with that moment, because if I think back to some of the more painful times of my life, and they're probably more associated with a person rather than necessarily a course of events. And when you're in that pain, in the moment, if someone gave you that like quick, easy fix of you could be out of this pain, I could delete this person from your life, your memory, you'd never know anything about it. It would probably seem really tempting at the time in order to take away that pain and order, you know, you'd think, oh, I'm gonna feel good again, I'm gonna be happy again. Tick. But actually when you take a step back and you've got the cold light of day and you've got a bit of hindsight on your side, and you can look back and situations that have been painful or unhappy or caused you some misery or uncomfort, whatever it is, actually they're probably the situations that have made you change or that have made you grow or where development has happened. And I know for myself, like events from last year that were painful, the reason why I'm sitting here right now talking to you guys, and that I've taken up coaching and that I've taken up going down the route of building my own business and changing my life and my lifestyle. And that came from having to pick myself up from a bad place. But if I had deleted those memories, and if I had deleted people along the way, then I wouldn't have been forced to do something about those memories. I wouldn't have been forced to learn from those bad times. I wouldn't have been forced to grow from those bad times. And I don't actually know where I'd be. I mean, it's complete honesty even. I'd probably still be pottering along in the same job, just bobbing along with my 9 to 5, and I'd probably go along to make similar mistakes because I wouldn't have the memories to not do that again, or like to grow from them. So the same mistakes would probably be coming up, and there'd be no growth. And as painful as whatever situation we're talking about, whether it's, you know, the loss of someone or the ending of a relationship or a toxic friendship or a toxic parent, whatever the memory is, there's probably been something about that that's probably made you the person you are and where you are today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I totally agree with that. Dean, what do you think, man?
It's interesting because I think that you need memory to operate. And I use the analogy of a computer. If a computer doesn't have memory, it cannot function, it cannot work. And I think that we're very similar in that sense, that memories give us a yardstick because when we think of memories, we normally categorize them into two categories, and that would be pain and pleasure. Mm-hmm. So a bad memory gives you the insight and the idea of how good something could be in relation to it, as in at the other end of the spectrum. So memories, bad memories, in a sense, that it gives you an opportunity to see the possibilities of what success, happiness, joy, whatever the opposite of that memory is, to come to fruition. What I would say is that it's interesting because my imagination ran away with itself there, because I would imagine that you could go to a high street shop like a dentist, and you go in and say, look, I've had this, you know, terrible memory, like my dog's died, and I can't stop thinking about this dog. It breaks my heart. I can't sleep at night. And you're going to go, right, okay, yeah, bit like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. You bring in all its possessions, and they basically go into a brain scan and delete every single memory and the association, the love, the feelings, the emotion, everything is gone. And I think that it could work maybe if you had like 3 in your life and that's it. But I would imagine that you'd end up with like bad memory junkies that basically they just want to literally get rid of every bad memory. And the thing is, you start deleting more and more bad memories, and the ones that are still there just get more excruciating, more painful. And then you get rid of all of them, and then you've got nothing that you can base your life on. Everything that's been wiped, because within memories are lessons, where we've been, what we've done, who we've met, relationships. I mean, they contain so much information that if you were to delete memories, you're literally erasing parts of your life, like chapters.
Would you be the same person?
Oh, I think Dean got froze. But
most of it's gone. Like, it's interesting. It's an interesting stuff. But for me, no. I mean, like you, James, I would say that on the surface, it'd be like, "Yep, I'll do it. Get rid of it. Thank you. I'll snap your hand off." But actually, in retrospect, I think it's actually a dangerous thing, and it robs us of our humanity.
Well, and it's how we learn. I mean, imagine being a baby, and imagine if so you touch the hot stove and you burnt your finger so bad, and then your parents run and they take you over to the memory center and get that memory deleted because like, I don't want my child to feel that pain. Like that must have hurt. So then the kid comes back the next day, they see the stove and they touch it again because that memory of associating the stove with the pain, with the heat is not there. So on that level, memories are how we learn. And as we grow and we're experiencing more things in life, like these traumas and these hardships and this pain, it's like I believe that we're meant to take those feelings and utilize them and learn from them. But this is the thing that I think we as in I would have loved more from growing up is learning how to do that. Like touching something hot and realizing that we're not supposed to touch it again. That's a very easy in your face example of how we learn, but dealing with something like a first breakup in a relationship and trying to navigate those feelings and understand what we're supposed to be learning from this situation when we can't even, like, the feelings are so strong and so new that how do you navigate that? I was never taught how to navigate that. And there's a lot of things in my life that like stemmed from that first breakup in the first relationship and trying to learn about, like, you know, is it me? Is it them? Is it anybody? Like, you know, I think that's the biggest thing is I never had the tools to go and learn from my mistakes. Unless they were very, very blatant, like this hurts, don't do it again. But that's the thing is when I got hurt in like my first relationship, I didn't associate that as the same pain when really it is. Pain is pain. So it hurts. And now it's like, oh, don't do that again. And what did I do? I went back to that relationship probably 6, 7, 8 times and always had the same outcome. So I didn't learn like I did with the stove. It would have been like me going up and touching that stove 6 times until my finger was like a stub because it was burnt so bad. So that to me is, I don't know where these skills come from or how you learn that or make that association that like pain is pain and we're feeling that pain. We're supposed to be learning something from it.
Sure. But what's interesting is that it's people think that bad memories, you feel in pain and you feel that discomfort or that feeling in your gut it's a horrible feeling. And a lot of people think that it's the feeling of the experience, but the experience has, although it gives it context, but the experience doesn't give it meaning in the sense that it's not the experience that you're saddened by, it's the association that you've given to the experience. So actually knowing that is a good starting point because you realize that let's use the example of a breakup. It can happen again, but in a different form if you go for a job and you get rejected. That same feeling is the same. It could be very similar. It might be different in the way it's structured, but it's brought on. And then you think, okay, I haven't got the job because I'm not enough. And then it's like, oh, this happened to me with my ex-girlfriend. Maybe it's I'm not enough. And then you see these patterns emerge. So it's never the experience. And then this is what we do as well, because we don't deal with the first initial issue or feeling, it gets like stacked up with other. And then we kind of, even though it has nothing to do with that situation, we link and see patterns, and then we kind of lump it all in one category. So it builds up. And probably a lot of people have this horrible feeling where it's not just one incident, but many that have kind of congealed into one kind of mega like suffer bomb. that's like ready to go off, you know?
No,
The
and
suffer
it's
bomb.
Stuff.
that expectation, isn't it, that you put onto things and that you put onto yourself. Like if you think about what Dean was saying about the breakup of feeling I'm not enough, and then the interview, that's about how you're viewing these situations, and then how that you're then choosing to process those feelings, and that's something that you're putting onto yourself, that I'm not enough. Where if we go through these difficult situations and these challenging situations, but we're then able to reframe them and see how we can use them. So for example, with the breakup, that you can see that, you know, there were issues, and for one reason or another this wasn't meant to be, but this wasn't about you. And then the same with the interview, you know, this wasn't a good fit. In the long run, there's probably a better job out there, a more suitable job out there for you, and that you're able then to reframe these and learn from these and take on a different perception about these experiences. I mean, that's how we're growing and how we're developing ourselves. But if you were to delete all those and all you were left with were pure, happy, blissful memories, that'd be a really skewed version of the world. I mean, plenty of other people wouldn't be living your reality. So how would your connections with other people change? Because surely when you're on such a different plane to someone else, like to other people like that, is that going to affect your ability to communicate in the same way? Is that going to affect your connections with people if all you're experiencing is happiness and bliss? And because that isn't life, right? We've got to go through these difficult, challenging times in order to get out of our comfort zone and learn about ourselves. And if we had a client in front of us, that's exactly what we'd be doing, right? We would be questioning them about how else they could view this situation and what they could learn from this situation and what they want to change in the future, and like how that's changed their beliefs and their values. And that's exactly how we'd be dealing with a client sitting in front of us that was going through something challenging or painful. We would be trying to get them to change their perception on it and reframe it so that they could grow from it, because we see the value in the bad times as well as the good times.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see the extremities, though. I would say that there's probably the extreme cases where probably there'll be people that have been through things that would actually say, well, you know, in these rare circumstances that actually this has, you know, limited my life for many years, decades even. But I do feel that there's ways to deal with these memories, although you wouldn't wish them on anyone. So it would be interesting to get someone's take on it that's like, we've all been through stuff, but I mean on the extreme end of the spectrum. It'd be interesting to get someone's opinion on that.
Have you guys heard of? I'm gonna like. There's this journalist that went like to like Iran or Iraq or somewhere like that, some Middle Eastern country, and got kidnapped and was like, I think it was like 6 or 7 months, and like went through horrendous things. And she tells her story about how she's come out of it, how she made it through it, like her mindset on it and stuff like that. It actually would be a really interesting thing for us to listen to after this and talk on that a little bit, because I think her outcome and this is what you were talking about, like extreme, like the most extreme scenario that could ever happen to a person that you never wish anything on anybody. And I think the outcome is she came out of it and she's, you know, a different person, but like she's a stronger person because of it. You know, what like she didn't take it and be like, oh my, I was like the hugest victim in the world, even though she was. But I think she had like a positive spin on it afterwards. So I'm just going to write a note down and make sure that I remember to follow up on that. And have you guys heard this story before?
Yeah, I've heard of it. Yeah.
I just can't remember.
Unfortunately, there's been a few like that, Jamie.
Yeah, I think it's a
And obviously, you know, what Dean was talking about, if you go to the extreme ends of obviously like when you're talking about torture or sexual abuse, or people that have, you know, families that have suffered murder, you know, they've lost someone through such extreme measures. I mean, of course, I mean, they're pains that are just unparalleled. But if you took that last option, and you could go with, there's so many examples of this where families have lost someone through violence, be that knife crime or be that through outright murder, and what they've done through that is that they've then set up foundations, and then they're changing the lives of thousands of people, and thousands of people have benefited from their pain. So you then got this weird dilemma, because if you took their pain away from them, you'd then be taking away the wonderful good that they've gone on to do because of the pain that they've been in. So you've got this really weird moral, social dilemma, because if you were talking numbers, would you favour the situation where thousands of people's lives are changed, or where one person's life is changed?
That's a brilliant point. And yeah, there lies. I think that they would get their son or daughter back, just because I think that's the rational explanation. I think that's the rational choice, even though it might not appear that way. I think that it would be almost, I don't know. That's a very tricky. That is a dilemma. That is something. But it's interesting because, okay, let's just say that someone close to you's died, and you want to delete that memory of kind of their last moments, possibly the funeral, that sadness after maybe weeks of grieving. You take that away, and it's like you wake up one day and it's like, oh, where's Dad? Because you have no memory that he's died. So it's like, then you've got to relive all that again. I think it's a natural process that we have to go through. We literally have to go through it, because the other side of that is more pain and more grief. So that, okay, they wake up and it's like, where's Dad? Well, sorry, but you deleted your memory. Like, Dad's not here. Dad's not around. Then they suffer again. So what do? They then go and get the memory. But it's like a loop. I don't think there's a way out of it. I don't think there's a way out.
Simple question. Would you both want to live a life where you only ever felt happiness? That's the one emotion you've got, happiness.
I honestly, to answer this question, I think it's like the whole yin yang thing, where how can you know happiness until you've known sadness? Like, if the only emotion you've ever had is happiness, that's the only one emotion, it's like, then it's just a baseline. It's just like, it's almost like that emotion would be feelingless, because it's just the only thing you know. Because then once you have happiness and all of a sudden you see someone experiencing excitement, you're like, whoa, but I'm just happy. That person is excited. Why can't I get excited? Then all of a sudden you see somebody that's like super sad, and you're like, okay, whoa, now they're super sad. I'm very glad that I'm happy. So it's like, until you have that something to compare it to, happiness is just nothing until you know something different.
Yeah. And happiness is extremely subjective anyway. So if you were to remove the opposite of happiness, whatever the hell that is, then it becomes even more like abstract. And like, the idea of you can't appreciate the sweet without the sour, I think is so true. And again, that's another, I guess you're robbing, if everyone became happy and they stayed at that baseline, as Jamie said, we're not human. We're something else. We've become something different. And I think the world would be a horrible place. As weird as that sounds, it doesn't sit right with me. I don't know how it would even play out. I'm not even sure what it would even look like.
I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to start talking about Star Trek, because there was Data. He was on Star Trek: The Next Generation. His ultimate goal in life was to feel human emotions, because he was a machine and he couldn't feel human emotions. And that's through the whole show. That was the whole concept that stayed the same, was him trying to mimic these emotions. And he'd think that, oh, I've got it. And he'd do like these fake laughs and stuff like that. And he was trying to understand it. So that's what makes us truly unique, is our emotions. And then all these movies that are always like, that's what makes humans weak. But then at the end, that's what makes us like succeed as well. So like the more weakness we get from it, and the more we get pushed down and how it's a bad thing, that's how much we can succeed from it too. So it's like those extremes. So I'm going to say like, no, I wouldn't want to live a life like that, because then I feel like that's what we'd be like robots. It would be something that like, no matter what, however bad, like think back right now to the worst you've ever felt. Well, maybe don't, but I'm going to do this and just think back to it. And like in that moment, it was the most painful thing I'd ever experienced. And I wouldn't have wished on anybody. But right now, thinking back to that moment, I can't get that same feeling. I can't get that same thing. It's gone. It's done. I've moved on. I've dealt with it, whatever. So now it doesn't have that like power anymore. But what I've learned from it is still with me. That experience and that like, I mean, it's huge in like, say sports or anything. When you were like super scared, or you were out camping, you were in the middle of the woods and you got lost or something like that. Like right now I'm safe in my home, but like that thought of being lost and that feeling of helplessness that was there, next time I'm about to go in that scenario again, it's going to stop me. And I'm going to think and be like, was that worth it last time? How am I going to do things differently? And so that's what I think the power of this, having these memories and these bad memories is, because it can't hurt me now, but in that time it was pretty drastic.
Yeah.
And as coaches, and I know for myself, we would use that to harness someone's motivation, because we would tap into, where have you been? What did that felt like? What did that feel like? You know, what did that mean to you? What was life like at that point? And where do you want to be? And what does that look like? And I know, for example, I use that as my motivation. I know how miserable or low or whatever the emotion is, but negative, I've felt at different times. And I'm like, I don't want to be there. I don't want to go there again. I don't want to be over that side. I want to be over here. And I'm going to use those times and those situations and those feelings to motivate my ass to get me over there, so that I can experience more happiness or joy or fulfillment or meaning, whatever the positive emotion is. But we would use that as a source of motivation, and it's something we would try to tap into with our clients to get them to see where they are, where they want to go. I'm not saying where they are is necessarily miserable or whatever, but if there have been times like that, you would piggyback on that to be like, right, so where are we going to take you?
Totally.
But also as well is that there's a form of coaching called NLP, which deals a lot with memories and traumas. And how it works is you're not deleting memories, but you're changing the way the memory appears. Because you have to remember is that the memory at the time is different to how you imagine it now. You've changed it. Like you imagine, for whatever reason, that memory is not as it was, and you've processed it in a weird way because you're kind of bombarded by all these feelings and senses. It's how you process it. But with NLP, you can literally have a bad memory and swap it for something else, so that these triggers that trigger the memory, instead of triggering that traumatic experience or that situation, you've reprogrammed it, so you now think of something completely different, something uplifting, something like maybe a memory where you're very happy or content or relaxed. So there are ways that you can basically reprogram yourself so that you don't have to delete the memory. You can change it and alter it. And if you think that your feelings are based on thoughts, and if you can change the thoughts to that memory or that situation, the memory can stay as it was. You don't have to literally change it and go build a time machine, and shed. You can literally just change the feelings associated to that memory. And there's some really amazing techniques, and it can be done within 30 minutes, 20 minutes. It's literally incredible stuff. So there are ways and means to do it. And obviously there's other areas like therapy and hypnotherapy and things like that, but it can be done. And I've seen it with my own eyes, and it's an incredible thing to watch.
Nice. Yeah, man, those sessions are amazing. I love them. If anybody listening wants to do a little NLP session, I'm sure Dean would be all over that. Hey, bud?
Absolutely. Yeah. Let me know.
Yeah, man. Just have a chat and see what it's about. It's pretty fun, and being open to that. Like, it's a lot of visualization, like closing your eyes and taking yourself back to that feeling in that moment. But awesome, guys. This has been an awesome conversation. Love it.
Jamie, can I just interrupt you? Because you were talking about Star Trek. Can you leave the show with like a Star Trek, maybe like the ending, like space, the final frontier, and you can see it like that way.
These are the voyages of the Starship Enterprise, whose mission is to seek out new life. I can't remember all of it, but dude, I can't, man. I can't. I love it. Live long and prosper, my friends. I love it, dude, especially the new ones. I absolutely love them. The movies when I watch Star Trek, I'm like, I wish I was born in the time of like that, where I was like on a ship traveling around the galaxy. I just like, I love it. I don't know any kid that didn't imagine that, to be on some starship traveling around the stars.
What would be your job? What job would you have on the?
Oh, good question.
I would have liked to be I would have been Sulu. I would have wanted to drive the ship. Yeah,
that's the best job, right?
Yeah, I think so. What would you guys wanted to be?
Oh, I'd be wrestling you for like being able to steer the ship.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, with my driving skills, I'm not sure I would dodge, those craters and meteorites.
There's got to be a co-pilot, so you can be Chekhov. I'll be Sulu. You can be Chekhov. What about you, Dean?
Captain, obviously.
That's crazy. Hey, that's it's so crazy how that wasn't obvious though. Because I was like, ooh, maybe I'd be like Scotty or like.
Oh, Scotty! I do like Scotty or Bones.
Bones, the doctor. Yeah. Bones in the new ones he's like spot on, freaking awesome.
Yeah, all good.
I love how this got to Star Trek. Oh, it's so awesome.
I love to see you two just light up.
Oh yeah, no, we're gonna have to bring this in some more. There's gonna be like lots of Star Trek analogies now. Love it. Cool. Okay, guys. Like always, rate, review, subscribe, share this with your friends. Come in, have conversations with us. We'd love to start having more like live interactions with you guys. Let us know your thoughts, feelings, all that good stuff. If you want to have a talk with one of us, reach out to either one of us. We're on social media all over the place. We're on Facebook, Instagram. Just look up Jamie Cote, Kylie, Dean. We're all there. So yeah, guys. On that
and note, so Freedom Coaches, we're all over LinkedIn and Instagram.
There we go. Yeah, let us know. The only way to get better is to get feedback. So talk to us. And on that note, live long and prosper.
See ya.
Bye.